Hello and welcome to True North EV for another day. We're here actually talking with Tim from British Columbia, telling us about his car. Hope you guys enjoy. Tim, and welcome to True North EV.
Welcome.
So, we're just going to get right into it. Your first electric vehicle you wanted and why?
Well, my first one I wanted obviously was a Tesla 3, but it was not something that was in my price range. So I've been looking at them for a while, and I just happened to notice I've got a 2013 Mazda CX-5, which I'm very happy with. I purchased it outright, and I just was looking at electric cars, and I saw this 2012 for sale by a local couple. And low mileage because I've been at least through the city, didn't have a lot of use, sat for a while. So I went up and looked at it, and their situation was they lived up on the hill, so they weren't able to save any energy because they went down the hill when it was already fully charged, and then came up the hill, and they had to charge it every day because it had mileage, right? So they ended up buying a Tesla 3 and gave it to his wife, but his wife drove the Tesla 3 one weekend and decided she wanted one too, so they're now
so, so you currently have a 2012 Nissan Leaf, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I know they weren't getting that much range. What are you getting for range, not being on a hill?
Well, I bought it in the middle of summer, and it actually works really well for me because I have about 13 kilometers to go to work. And
okay.
9 are pretty flat. And when I first got the car, my first trip to work, I played around with the weekend with the car. I learned to do the Eco Boost, and it took me like 1.5 kilometers of power to get to the bottom of the hill. Great. Then to get the next 3.5 kilometers up the hill to my hotel I work at, it took 25 kilometers of power. I'm going. Then, of course, I leave work and I go down the hill. And at the end of the day, I end up going 23 kilometers. I end up using 10 kilometers of power because of the regen.
Yeah.
And so I didn't charge the car for 3 days. I am going to love this. That was good all the way until late October when it started going below zero. That is when the 100 to 110 kilometers that I can charge at 80%, maybe 120 at 100 capacity become a little more dangerous, with the sense I couldn't go 3 days. I was lucky if I was getting 2 days without charging.
And do you have like a charger at home then that you were just using, or?
No, I just plug it in on a regular, what came with the Leaf. I have a couple plugs that were really close to where I parked my car, and I just added an extension cord on it, so I'm able to plug in and charge overnight. I'm also fortunate we have both a Tesla and a level 2 at work. So I knew that worst case, I always had that backup if I had to.
Yeah. So with the 2012 Leaf that you have, do you have a connector for CHAdeMO, or is it just the 110 plug?
Well, I did my research before I bought it. So it's an SL, which means it came with the level 2 charger, or the high speed charge is also there. I've just never used it.
Oh, okay.
There's a lot of them in Kamloops to use. I think there's only 3 in the whole city.
And so was it mostly just availability is why you chose that EV, or?
No, I was looking at some other ones. They said if you got a 30 kilowatt rather than 24. One was the price. It was in town. And my thought was, I got 2 cars. I'll just use this for my city car, and I'll keep my Mazda to do everything else, which is really what I've done. I've given my Mazda to my daughter to drive on a daily basis, and twice now I've traded cars with her and went to Vancouver or went to Kelowna, which is 200 kilometers away, and I just use the Mazda for those trips because this car can't go there.
Yeah. So, why did you want an electric car even to begin with? What?
My hotel is one of the most energy efficient hotels. Ours is a green program hotel, geothermal, solar. We've done all that over the years, and we've always been very green as a company, and myself personally. My kids grew up, they're in their 30s now. We grew up recycling and everything. So I've been wanting one for a while, but the challenge has been because I travel so much was that I knew they didn't have that travel capacity, and I
Yeah.
just can't afford two cars. It just happened to be, I got this car for about $12,000, which was a really good price. They gave it to me because they realized I wanted it for the right reason. That's what they were looking to pass it on to another enthusiast rather than just somebody because the car was cheap.
And is this the first electric vehicle that you've had?
Yes, yes. I looked at some hybrids before, but again, when I bought in 2013, the only thing out there really was the Mazda and the Prius, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the Leaf and the Prius. And the Leaf didn't have what I needed to me to do the traveling I do to Vancouver, Kelowna, and Calgary that I was doing at the time. And the Prius wasn't quite big enough. I needed something that had more of an SUV look, and that's where the CX-5 came in.
Okay. And so, since getting the Leaf, have you had to change any of your driving habits for the electric, or
Um,
just keep driving like normal?
no, I've definitely, I would say I have more of a lead foot. But I mean, the electric instant boost to drive is kind of fun at the beginning. But now
Yeah.
I actually go in auto drive, put on cruise control in town because once I get on the highway, yeah, I still maybe go 10 kilometers over the speed limit, but now it's speed limit's 50. I put it to 60, put it on cruise control, and just wait till the light, and allow the
Yeah.
machine to do. So I'm not being really energy efficient, but I'm also knowing, it's costing me 75 cents a day to run this car. So, you know.
Yeah. And so, what's the longest trip you've done in the Leaf?
Um,
Or is it mostly just to work and back type
I've done
deal?
one trip. I was going to go out to, there was an evening function I was supposed to go to. I started leaving there and then realized as I started leaving, I stopped, looked at my little Google map and realized it was 40 kilometers each way. And it was early on. I only had it a month and I hadn't really driven highway yet and realized I was not going to make it there and back without charging because of the highway drive. So I happened to have somebody I knew that was halfway there. So I called them and parked my car, borrowed theirs, went the other 20 kilometers, came back and plugged my car in at their house while I waited. Did my reception, came back, and so that was the longest I had done on a trip, except for up to the up the top of the hill of our town. We're up on the side of a hill, half the town. So, and because it's there's like a 4 mile hill from the bottom to the top and quite slope. It takes a lot of energy to get up there at highway speed.
It's great when you go down,
Oh
though.
yeah. I did one where I didn't charge that morning. It was on my second day. I went to work and back. It was Friday, Saturday. Oh, I need to go to Costco. So I just climbed in my car. So I'll go to Costco like I always do, right? I got there with less than 8 kilometers of power left. And the last 2 miles, I was sweating like boots. I didn't know if I mean, as much as I was going up the hill at 85, 90 kilometers, that power gauge was just going down just as fast. So, but I made
Yeah.
it, And then I got home with 40 kilometers of power because I came down that same 7 mile hill or 5 mile hill, at 90 kilometers. So it does really good regen at that speed, right? So I've not
And
how to,
I guess that's where you learn the limits of
yeah.
the vehicle is by just pushing them that much more.
Well, what I ended up doing is on in September for 3 straight weekends, I listed all the regular places, my golf course, the other two courses I like to play, my buddies, where they live, my work, my other stuff I do, and I did some test runs on how far can I go and tracked it. So now I have a much better idea. If I know I'm going up to a meeting up at the very top of the hill of town from work, I'll plug it in for an hour. Like I'll just I like to leave that 30-40% capacity at the bottom, not to use it if I don't have to.
Yeah.
And my goal is that when I park at home at the end of a day, if I have to go to work, if I have to go up that hill and use that 30 kilometers of power, I have it sitting in the car at all times. That's just a peace of mind for me.
Yeah. And that's kind of what we go with is whatever makes you
Yeah.
comfortable. Then, so with the Nissan Leaf, what would you say the worst feature or item would be with the one you have?
The winter, just in the sense of its heaters are not very efficient when you're down minus 15.
Okay.
I mean, I have learned to, plug it in overnight and, put that heater on. So when I climb in at 640, it's nice and toasty. But, for me to, at minus 15 degrees and a little bit of wind chill to get all the way to work and leave the heater on all the way, it barely gets to work. So I have to plug it in to work. And so for my own, just because I don't like to use that much energy, I've been having to sort of put that extra jacket on, gloves on, and make it all the way to work.
And it has heated seats,
Yes, I have
correct?
them on. I have the
Yeah.
heated steering wheel is fabulous. It's just when it's that cold, that battery just because it's got no heat and cooling. What I was finding is
Yeah.
if I charge too early, um, towards the end, it would have to use its own heater to heat up itself to protect itself because it's too cold. And while I thought I had 80%, I would end up with 65% power because I took 15% for the last 2 hours just to keep itself alive. And so, and that just ties to the fact that it's got such limited capacity to begin with, and
Yeah.
the cold weather, the combination of the two, right? If it was maybe a 30
Yeah.
kilowatt power, I'd have that extra 30, 40 kilometers. I would probably make that winter a lot less to deal with.
And then on the flip side of it, what's the best feature of the Leaf?
Oh, I love the heated steering wheel. It's just in the winter, it's nice and toasty. It's just a fun little vehicle to drive. It's got enough space for my golf cart, which was my first priority. You know, it's been well. I can open up the trunk, slide the little piece on the right. I can slide in my golf clubs, my golf bag. I put an actual pets cover on my back seat so I can put my electric wheels from my golf cart in there and anything else whenever I'm doing any repair at my rentals. And it's just it's a little smaller than my Mazda, but it has all the tools and everything I need. And I said it's just fun to drive.
Nice. Um, have you had to take your Leaf to a dealership or
Um,
for any service or
last
anything since you got it?
last week I spent my first $2.85 for windshield wiper cleaner.
Okay.
That's the first money I spent on it. I got both summer and winter tires with it, and they'll be good for a couple more years. I probably am going to take it to the Nissan dealer and get it serviced just so they can maybe tell me if there's any issues at all. But I haven't noticed a problem. I had one. I shouldn't say that. That's right. I did buy a battery a month into it because I left it on overnight. and
Well, that's kind of
and
one of those
and
normal
then I
things.
started reading through these the forums and said, the worst thing that happens is the 12-volt battery. That's usually a set of
Yeah.
problems. So I just went and bought a new battery. I mean, it was fine after I charged it up, but I said, I'm just going to buy a new battery and peace of mind for the winter, which I'm glad I did.
Yeah. Um, so then have you talked to any dealerships? I know you haven't had to deal with them yet, but have you talked to any, like, I guess being in BC, they're probably a lot more EV friendly than other parts, but
You would think so, but in Kamloops here, actually not. You know,
no?
No, because before I bought this, I started shopping and I was going to maybe lease, a hybrid, or I like the idea of a plug-in hybrid because the fact that it had my capacity. I could do one car, I could trade in my Mazda if I wanted to. And I went to two
Yeah.
dealerships that have plug-in hybrids. Neither of them had any idea, had none in stock, and the two sales rep had no idea anything about them. Couldn't say a word about them. Never saw one, never looked at one. You know. So I did a lot of my own, and then I joined the Leaf group and a couple other ones that just asked questions. I really did like the plug-in uh, Prius, but what I didn't like was that it
Yeah.
only had a 56-kilometer capacity before the gas kicked in, and I wanted something that had at least that 100, and that's where that Leaf came in. The Leaf gave me that 100, which I knew was just a good number. And I was looking at the Ford Focus. I think it had 87 or something in its plug-in, but that would be new. Again, there was nothing in 17, 18, a little cheaper I could have found without going to a new one. And I just didn't want another car payment because I just paid the other one off a year and a half ago. So,
Yeah.
and I've never
Um,
had a problem buying a good used car. That's just part of my green thinking is if somebody else's old car is a new car to me, and if it's fun to drive, I've done that for 20 years. Keep it for
well, and especially with the electrics, right? There's not as much stuff to worry about if they've been abused or whatever. If they've been abused, it's okay, let's replace the tires type deal.
Yeah, and I had 11 bars when I got it. Those Leafs normally, by the time you hit 20,000 kilometers, they lose a bar normally. That seems to be the pattern. And the problem with this car is because it sat so much, and the people at the city who ran it the first 4 years of the lease, they pretty well quick charged it all the time because that's what they had at this facility there. And so what
Yep.
happened is I think that sort of burned the battery at the beginning, right? So I lost my second bar just at the end of this winter, but I still have the same capacity, even though I've only got 10 bars. Fully charged, it's 117 kilometers. So in the summer.
Okay.
So again, once I got past the -5 back to above zero overnight, I'm back to what I had last summer. It at zero, it still takes a little more energy to get to that bottom of the hill. Instead of 1 or 2, it's taking 5 or 6 kilometers. But that's the only thing I'm really
Yep.
noticing.
Okay. And since getting your EV, have you then sort of pushed anybody else, or converted anybody else to maybe move to electric, knowing that you can even get a used one versus a new one?
I've had two people who, again, because of the capacity issue on a lot of the older ones, where they didn't want to buy new, they have bought the plug-in hybrids, 1 or 2 years old, just
Yep.
because they don't want to have the two cars. That was their only challenge. So there's just nothing older than 2018 or 17 that can handle that really without going to a used Tesla, which is so expensive, you know. And so a couple went to the Prius plug-in, and one went to I think it was a Volkswagen, just for their budget. But
Okay. Yep.
and of course, I've a few friends have gone to the full Tesla. I think it wasn't just because I said so. Just when the Tesla 3 came out, it got into their price range.
Yeah, and once you go from a six-figure price tag to a little less even, it's a lot better on some people's budgets
Yeah.
then.
And my goal is eventually
Um,
was my retirement gift to myself would probably be a Tesla 3, just because of the capacity of the country to be able to travel with the Tesla 3. There's
yeah,
really no place, as they just did when they did that 73-hour trip across Canada. There's really no place you can't go with the Tesla right now.
true. And do you guys receive any incentives in BC for a
Not used.
used electric
No,
right
unfortunately,
now?
there's nothing for used, which is really disappointing. That I really wish they had some incentive that way. The biggest challenge right now, obviously, with my car is that there is no true reasonably priced battery replacement presently for my year of Leaf. I keep an eye on that. There's a company now in Quebec who has put a 40 kilowatt in a 2013, I think, for about 10 grand
Yeah,
or less, which I would spend that kind of money to put a new battery like that in mine. I mean, right now, a 2018 40 kilowatt battery Leaf is 35,000. I paid 12. If I put another 10, I'm still 15,000 ahead by doing that. But
yeah.
you just can't find a
Um,
40-watt battery right now.
Although with that 40 watt, didn't they also take up space? Like, didn't you lose the
No,
back
no.
seat,
They
or
they
did?
actually use the same container as the 40, the 30, and the 24 use the same frame. They just had to, on one side of it, there's actually a great video online, by the way. On one side, they had to put a little different bracket in, and underneath they put in their little cartridge, which allows your 2012 to 2017 to read the bigger battery.
Okay, I must just be mixing it up with another one that got a whole lot of range, but they like took over the back seat and
In
the
Europe,
trunk
they've
and all
added,
that.
yeah, but
Yeah,
in the one in Quebec, they either bought or got a 62 and a couple 40s, and they put them in older Leafs to test their little. They worked on the adapter so that the older Leafs can read the new batteries. That's really They're about
Okay.
$1,000 US for that, and then find your own battery if you want, right?
Although, or have you looked at like scrapyards and all that?
Yeah,
Just because I
online
know,
there is just nothing right now. Like a
no,
40, you can't find a 40 watt in a scrap. They're just all gone. Um, but there's lots of 24s out there. But why put another 24 in? That would make no sense. Uh,
yeah,
I want
yeah,
that. I want
especially,
that for no. I want no less than a 40, right? And then
sure, yeah,
my other option is to upgrade to a 2017 because they're priced pretty reasonable. If I can sell this trade in, and then I could go from a 30 to a 62, right, or 30 to a 40, right.
yeah.
But at this point, I'm in no
Um,
hurry. It's been not quite a full year, and I'm loving what it is and what it does for me. I just, as if the time comes right now, and I find the right used car, or hopefully in the next couple of years they'll have that capacity to be able to upgrade mine, even with battery packs or a new battery. Then I'd consider that. There's a company in Abbotsford who's also specializes in hybrids, is now working on Leaf replacements. But again, they're having the same challenge. They just can't find batteries.
yeah. Um, is there? So, what would your next one probably be then? Are you're liking the shape and all that of the Leaf? That just because then you can fit all your golf clubs and all
Well,
that
again,
in.
it's because it's a mini SUV is what I call it, the Leaf with the hatchback and all that.
Yeah,
I can put the seat down and put stuff in there when I have to for the few things I need to carry around on a rental problem. Really, it's just the right size. The Tesla 3 would be nice as a nice. I got a couple years from retirement. It'd be nice to maybe buy one of those if I can get equity out of my rental houses for that. So I just don't want another loan at my age. Who wants a
yeah,
5 year car rental or car payment, right? On there,
yeah.
or otherwise, again, the other thing was buying a 2018 used in a couple years when the price comes down.
Awesome. Well, I do. Is there any electric vehicle groups or anything that you're a part of that you would like to kind of tell us
Well,
about, or any contact info for
there is
yourself?
a Kamloops Leaf group, and there's a Canadian. I'm sure not Kamloops. I'm sure there's a BC Leaf group and a Canadian Leaf group that I follow, and then I follow the Tesla and the Kona group just because they're the other two cars I was looking at because of their capacities, and I just
Yep.
they're helping me to understand the challenges right now. While the Kona has additional capacity, it has some other challenges compared to the Leaf. So I'm just comparing one.
Yes, like
Yeah,
storage.
but the Teslas, this is why the Tesla is really telling me how superior that product is compared to everything else. And right now, I mean, it's 55,000 for a new Leaf Plus, and you get an 8,000 rebate. You're talking less than 20,000 to go to a Model 3 Tesla. For that investment, peace of mind on what you got is worth it. If I
And you guys still are getting how much from the province for
It's a
your
combination
guys's
of three
new
thousand
vehicles?
provincially and 5,000 federally. But
Okay.
that 3,000 is
Which,
limited. There's also right now there's a program, $700 from BC Hydro if I put in a level 2 charger in my house. So I might do that. So it's going to be about 1,500 installed, and I'll get 700 back. I just did that with some furnaces off of them, so I might do that level 2. And then the other
nice.
thing I looked at was something called the Golf Buddy. I don't know. I mean the not the Golf Buddy, the Dryer Buddy, where you take the same plug that you're using for your dryer, and you plug in there, and you can go between your car and your dryer. Which how often do you use your dryer, right?
Where if you have your dryer close by, it works
Yeah, and I
fantastically.
do. I happen to have a dryer right below my front door, down below in the basement, that I could easily just put it in there and run up a 5 foot cord up the wall. And I got an outside 20 amp, which my Leaf only does 6.6 charge anyways. So 16 amp
Yeah.
circuit is all I need. So
Awesome. Well, I do thank you so much
no
for your
problem.
time. It was great talking to
Hmm.
you. And yeah, you have yourself a
You
great
betcha.
day.
Thanks, Dave.
Awesome.
Talk to you
Thanks a
later.
lot. Bye. Yeah. I want to thank Tim again for the time and all the great information. And yeah, if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, you can shoot me an email at truenorthev@gmail.com, or you could search for me on True North EV Podcast on Facebook and on Twitter. Also, if you guys don't want to listen to, I know most of you guys, or I guess about 25% of you guys listen on Anchor. It is available. The podcast is available on most streaming services now. So you can find me wherever you guys listen to your guys' other podcasts. And you guys have yourself a great day. And I'll be coming back to you in probably 2 to 3 days with another interview. Thanks and have a great day, guys.